So,
Thank you for having me on.
what will House Oversight Democrats release next? You know what? Let's just ask one of them. Congressman from Virginia, James Walkinshaw, joins me now. Congressman, some people are very cynical about the prospects of this deadline being met, particularly without a penalty clause. But I do wonder, because you heard from the Oversight Ranking Member, Robert Garcia, talking about the review of the different documents and photographs and then wanting to be a little bit prudent about what gets out and cautious. But there's the accusation of cherry picking and only selectively putting some things out. Why only release the images that were released today?
Well, as the ranking member noted, the committee received, I think, 75,000 photographs. They're being painstakingly reviewed by a relatively small staff to ensure that all of the victims are protected, that there is no chance that a piece of information, perhaps not even a photo of a victim, perhaps another piece of information in a photograph could reveal a victim's identity. So that's painstaking work. It takes time. And as we have with the previous tranches of information and photographs from the estate, it will all be released ultimately.
I know there are photos. We've just been alerted to possibly videos as well. What specifically type of categories might the public not see? I know the redacted images of people, but some of these pictures we've already seen, they're not really painting the full picture. Will there be documents to accompany, analysis in terms of the filing by law enforcement, anything more to contextualize what we're seeing?
Well, I think the context for what we're seeing belongs to the Department of Justice. And you noted the deadline coming up for the law that Congress passed and President Trump signed to release the files. But before that law was passed, the Department of Justice was under subpoena, just like the Epstein estate is under subpoena, to the Oversight Committee to release documents. They have not complied with that subpoena. The Department of Justice, long before the bill passed to release the files, has been covering up the files and ignoring a valid subpoena. They have the context for what we're seeing today.
One of the concern or criticisms that's been out there has been the idea of cherry picking, and that all the people who are seen in these new photos have been previously linked to Epstein in some way, shape, or form. What is the committee trying to get at with release?
I think the allegation of cherry picking I find a bit strange. If Democrats were cherry picking, we wouldn't have released photos of President Clinton. We wouldn't have released photos of other prominent Democrats like Larry Summers. Democrats have been open and transparent and following this investigation wherever it leads, whether it leads to prominent Democrats or prominent Republicans.
You mentioned former President Bill Clinton. The House Oversight Chairman says that both President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, obviously, must appear before the committee for depositions next week, or they would face contempt of Congress. Should they appear? Should they comply?
I think President Clinton and Secretary Clinton should appear before the committee for depositions when President Trump appears before the committee for depositions. With respect to President Trump, we know Jeffrey Epstein said in the emails that were released several weeks ago, he knew about the girls. Jeffrey Epstein said in the emails, President Trump spent hours with one of the young women at Epstein's home. These are real pieces of important evidence about President Trump. So if we want to depose someone, let's depose President Trump.
Is that the order that would make the difference, hearing from Clinton before Trump? Because obviously, I'm a little bit skeptical of whether President Trump would actually listen to your subpoena.
I don't think he would. His Department of Justice has ignored our subpoenas. But my message to Chairman Comer would be, let's follow both, Democrats and Republicans. So if you want to subpoena Democrats, let's subpoena Republicans as well. And the Republican with close ties to Jeffrey Epstein is President Trump.
I see one of the former advisors, obviously, Steve Bannon, who was in these pictures, including that mirror selfie I think we just showed. What does the committee know about the nature of their relationship between Bannon and Epstein?
I don't think we know. I think those are good questions to ask, the depth of their relationship. And again, I think the DOJ files might shed some light on that.
Will an inspector general's report or a review of any of this be assisting to your inquiry? Because as DOJ has until next Friday to release the files, some of your colleagues do want there to be an independent review. Is that possible?
It could be possible. I think we need to get the files, and the American people need to see the files, and then we can determine the path forward, what additional investigation is needed. But right now we have a lot of things that we just don't know because Donald Trump and Donald Trump's DOJ have been covering up the files. They need to release the files.
Excuse me, sorry, Congressman. Is the support that you had to get that files release, is it still in place between the Republicans and Democrats?
I think so. I think there is very strong support. I mean, we saw an overwhelming vote in both the House and Senate on the bill to release the files. I think there's bipartisan interest now after a lot of effort to cover this up from Republicans in Washington. I think this is an issue, especially set aside politicians in Washington, across the country. Democrats, independents, Republicans especially want to end this cover-up so we can get some transparency and hopefully one day some closure for the victims.
Many campaigned on it. Thank you so much, Congressman.
Thank you.
Up next, my exclusive